This is Aaron from Popaholic.com. I am talking with Mimi Betinis, who is of the band Pezband, the great band from the late 70s that combined Beatlesque melodies with gritty rock and roll edge. They released some wonderful albums from 77 to 79, all wonderful. And now they have a re-release of their last album, cover to cover, coming out on Gem Recordings. Mimi, how are you today?
Oh, very well, very well. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. Let me get right down to the questions. You remastered cover to cover, and it was the last album that Pezband recorded. Why the last album first? I mean, do you plan to remaster the entire catalog backwards and release it that way?
The first album, the black and white one, has been remastered by John Pavletic from the Japanese digital issue, which came out about 8 years ago, I think. Mm-hmm. The Laughing in the Dark, the middle record, hasn't been touched yet, but we are looking at that. Now, the thing that happened with cover to cover was I actually had the 2-inch studio tape from the studio. So I had that tape digitized and took it down to John Pavletic's place. John doesn't live too far from me. Mm-hmm. And John went at it like a dog.
Nice.
So he spent the good part of last year with the digitized tape, working on it and remastering and remixing the whole thing. So that's how, I think that answers your question, at least.
Yes, it does. And it's good to hear that another album is being looked at as well. In 1981, when this album was released originally, what was the state of the band back then, and what happened to sort of have the Pezband kind of fade away? And I don't know if they officially broke up. It was sort of like you just stopped coming out with albums after a while.
Yes, well, it was 79. That record was made in 79, and I mm-hmm. think released in late 79 as well.
Oh, okay.
By 1980, we kind of run our gamut, I guess. You know, our contract was over. We were out of money and looking to do other things. We did record something, an EP, as a 3-piece in Los Angeles with a friend of ours named Paul Brusek. Mm-hmm. I think that was in 1982, and I released that on CD Baby. That is called Women in Politics.
Yes,
but it's 4 songs.
Right.
So that was about it for us then, and the official record is really the 79 cover to cover as the 4-piece band. Yeah.
I see. Okay, so I mean, you're still songwriting, you're still doing wonderful things as far as music. I just wanted to know, is your approach to songwriting any different than it was back in those Pezband days in the late 70s? Have you changed the way you write? I'm sure you've changed what types of songs you write, but I mean, just the process, has that changed?
Well, I'm using the same old chords, I'm trying to put them together differently. It's a C and a D and a G, and they're all the same, and it gets tiring, but you try.
Right.
I guess I do make solo records, solo CDs now, and I try to look at the songwriting a little more carefully. I try to structure it a little bit more than maybe I had back then, but it's really kind of the same thing.
Okay. All right, cool. You're basically in touch with, I think, a lot of other Chicago power pop bands, like Cheap Trick, Off-Broadway. Are you familiar with guys from some of these other, like I would say, lesser-known power pop bands like the Wigs, the Unswept, V-Sparks, the Websters? Have you heard of any of those guys?
No, that's drawing a blank.
Okay. All right. You can look at PowerPopaholic.com and look them up, and they're all Chicago bands that have came out with albums over the past 5 or 10 years or so. But
that's wonderful. Well, the genre is still alive and kicking, that's for sure.
Yes. It's I like to call it as basically there seems to be a very targeted revival of certain power pop sounds and bands, and newer people. Younger people who are getting into the music business, some of them do gravitate towards that sound, which I think is nice to continue the genre moving forward. Are you doing anything as far as live performances to support the remaster of Cover to Cover?
Well, no, not just yet. I mean, we are thinking about it, but right now we are just concentrating on getting this new release up and out and push it as far as we can go.
Okay. At the time that it came out, I mean, I heard the album. I think it's a wonderful album. It's just as good as anything that Pezband put out. I mean, it's just as good as Laughing in the Dark, which was probably your best known album at that time. But this one didn't seem to get the promotion, the push from the label at the time. Do you feel that basically it was sort of ignored because of certain reasons, or you think that basically it just time had passed too much before this the second album and the third album came out?
Well, I think you're right. It was kind of at the end of the menu. I guess the menu had run out, and that was it. That was our last record. There wasn't much money. The contract wasn't renewed. We were a little down, I'll tell you the truth, with that. And we had moved back. The other records we had done out east. The first one was down in New Jersey. The second one in London. And then, so we were out in Jersey and West Orange for about 2.5, almost 3 years. Then everything kind of started piddling out, so we moved back to the Chicago area and did the cover-to-cover record. But, yeah, you're right. It didn't get much of anything as far as attention.
Right.
So, but it sure is now, and I'm glad for that.
Well, I hope the Power Pop fans will rediscover this record as the lost classic it is. And
I think it sounds great. I think John Pavletic, our engineer and producer, did an exceptional job with it. Just unbelievable.
I guess the last question I have was, Pezband was pretty quiet for a while until, I guess, Rhino came out with its Come Out and Play and Pop record, and the Poptopia Power Pop Classics record picked up, some Pezband singles like Baby It's Cold Outside and a few others to feature. And that kind of revived interest in the band in the 90s. And I'm wondering, did that sort of also get you started on your solo career, or was it sort of always in your mind to do solo work, and you've continued and are continuing with solo work?
I have always done solo work. I've always been writing, and I always just sit there and get stuff together and record. So I've been doing that from the late 80s, really, until present day.
Very good. Very good. Well, I mean, I appreciate the time, Mimi, and I hope that the album does really well. I hope people get it and listen to it and appreciate it. And I look forward to, basically looking forward to the next re-release. Maybe Laughing in the Dark will get a full remaster, and not just from the Japanese tracks, but basically from your masters. And
I hope so.
Yeah, and we look forward to that. And keep it coming, man, and keep coming with the solo work. We love everything you do here.
All right, thank you so much, Aaron. Thank you for having me on your show.
Thank you, Mimi Betinis from Pezband. Okay, take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.